shot through the whole society. You know, people in law enforcement, or, you know, have also succumbed to right-wing extremism and white nationalism. Again, what this points up is how pervasive and vast a problem this is, and we will be dealing with it for a long time.
Sizing you up, I'm gonna tell you everything. Got a I said, something's wrong here. Something's really wrong. Can't have happened. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. As this enormous crowd shows, we have truth and justice on our side. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania. And we're going to the Capitol. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America.
Lucky liar!
When you work late nights in dark, repulsive conditions, you probably expect to get paid. They don't. There are thousands of hard-working, underpaid men and women in your city right now. They're called musicians. Any given night of the week, they put themselves on the line for you and your drunk friends. The problem? You're not even there. The beer he got paid with tonight will never keep him warm. That guitar she still owes 12 payments on will never love her back. You can help. Go to your local dive bar right now. Pay the cover charge. Sit down with one of these outcasts and put yourself in their shoes. Take one home. Hell, take two if you want. Support local music. Sleep with a musician tonight. Without you, all we have left are ballads.
Oh my.
I understand.
Oh my. I love that video. The little PSA from the Federation of Troubadour Whores. That was my friend Kelly's project in school. They had to do a public service announcement, so Kelly got a bunch of us to do the various things and filmed it all. It was a pile of fun. Hi everybody, it's me, your old pal Big Ugly Jim. Oh, I'm back in my home after last week getting kidnapped to an Airbnb, which was awesome. Super, no problems with the connection at all. Just kidding, it was very tough. I see I've got my pal James Bond sitting in the YouTube chat. I guess James is having problems with the old Twitch connection for whatever reason. Hi James, I hope you're doing well, my friend. And I see there's a couple names in the Twitch chat as well. theoretically. I am Canadian, one of them. I hope you're here. I hope you're well. And I hope it's not crapping out, because I have no idea what's going on. Anyways, I'm here. We're going to talk a little bit about stuff. Politics, probably, because I'm a filthy socialist. And it should be fun. Personal life stuff, I will not dwell on too much. I had pretty much a terrible week, but I'm an indomitable force of nature, and I can continue to be positive and focused on the world's gonna be all right, even though I sometimes have rough weeks. I got a gig next week. One of my bands is playing. It was supposed to be two, but that's part of the reason why I had a bad week. Not gonna go into that. Suffice to say that bad things happened, and I was very much one of the main problems there. So, yay! I do enjoy fucking up. Anyways, the world is an interesting place. It's been a fun little while. Earlier today, I was watching a debate, just a Vosh debate, where he was debating with white ethno-stater, and I was like, wow, people really think these things. It just boggles my mind that anyone could actually look at that and objectively be like, yeah, there's something to that. Ethno-state, just not a good idea, not a real idea, not a good idea, and we should not do that. It's a hard stance I'm taking there. But I have coffee in my usual Iron Man / Captain America Marvel Civil War mug. Everything is going to be okay. So the usual thing I do is I'll stream for probably about 3 hours, give or take. Might go longer, might go shorter, depending on how I'm feeling. Love having the horns in the song. Great touch. Oh yeah, man, the horns it's one of my favorite things. That's my eldest kid and another friend, both of whom are fantastic horn players. So it was a blast. That band unfortunately has ended, or at least probably ended. We're on at least a 6-month hiatus, and most likely it's not coming back. So that kind of makes me sad. But it was a really fun project while it lasted. It's interesting. The intro that I played today is everything that I have a decent recording of. So there's some Keith Morrison band in there, which is my old band that I played upright bass on. There's the Grinning Barretts, asked me to come do some guest vocals for a song during COVID, so it was all shot in my basement and forwarded to them. What else was there? Some Bodies of Everest, my prog band, Dr. James Reddy, the ska band, and then the public service announcement. So it was fun. But it's neat for me to look back on all of this stuff, and because I became a musician, not a musician. I became a musician almost by accident. I always sang in choirs and stuff when I was a kid, and then time marched on and wasn't doing that anymore. And I actually did a little bit of stand-up comedy and stuff, and just sort of trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, when I was going to college, which is funny because my decision to go to college had nothing to do with what I wanted to do when I grew up. It was like, okay, well, whatever I want to do, I'm going to need an income as well, because let's face it, the world's the world. But yeah, when I finished college, I had a buddy that needed a band. He needed a bass player for his band, and I was like, yeah, I could learn bass. How hard? It's 4 strings. They're not difficult. So 3 days after I bought my first bass and had my first bass lesson, I was on stage destroying, and I don't mean that in the cool kid way. I mean oh, wow. Absolutely just awful on the bass. And I learned a little bit. I learned enough to, get through a couple of years of playing bass, and then I decided I wanted to be a frontman for some punk rock bands. So I did that, and that was cool and fun and awesome. And then I wound up playing bass again, and then I wound up playing the upright bass because I bought one, and now I'm changing styles and doing all kinds of different stuff. So it's cool to evolve as a musician. And I've picked up the trumpet, although I am not a skilled trumpeter. I am a trumpeter, a very, very green novice trumpeter, but I can fake it enough to play shows. Yeah. All right, let's get down to the brass tacks. First and foremost, I'm going to tell you I am an affiliate on Twitch. That means that you can subscribe to me. I don't want you to. I really don't care about money. I'm not doing this as a financial thing. This is just a thing that I do for fun. And Jeff Bezos doesn't deserve your money any more than you're already giving him. So if you want to subscribe to me, instead give some money to a local charity. That's way better use of your money than giving it to me. I have a day job. It's a good enough day job. I keep the lights on. That's my thing. I still haven't decided if I'm going to stay in the affiliate program or not. I like having emotes. That's kind of the only reason that I did it. I have my emotes. It's pretty much that, and that's just stupid. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but definitely not here to make money. I am a small streamer. I will probably always be a small streamer. I don't think there's a giant market for weird Gen X musicians. And if there is, I do not have my finger on the pulse, which is cool. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about politics and my take on things. And if you want to, in the chat window there, if you want to pop in and provide your perspectives on either YouTube or Twitch, you can, and we can engage back and forth. It'll be good. And then probably I will end it off by singing karaoke, because I'm a weird man. And it seems like a good way to humiliate myself. Why not? All right. So what did I want to talk about? The first thing that this popped into my head this past little while, and I thought it was an interesting thing. I went through a process of thinking about 10 things that we should have learned from the COVID pandemic, but that we did not. And so I want to talk about those a little bit. I need to change my screen a little bit so that I can see what the hell I'm doing. And there we go. Okay, so things we should have learned from the COVID pandemic that we didn't. These are in no particular order, and certainly not intended to be a comprehensive list. This is just 10 things that popped into my head this week that I was like, oh, that's a thing. We should add that to the list. So number 1, corporate real estate is stupid. I do not understand why all these companies are going, hey, let's hurry back to the offices now. The being a lazy homebound person is over. We're done with that. Come on back to the office. Let's cough on each other again. We miss coughing on each other, right? And I get, like, from some perspective, like, there's like an old school business mentality that says that if I can't see you working, I'm just going to assume you're not and fire you. But the lights stayed on. COVID, when we were all working from home or not working at all, we managed it. Well, I guess not if we're not working at all. But for those of us like myself who were working from home, we kept the lights on. We kept business moving at the speed of business. That means that they didn't need to watch us. We were just doing our jobs because we're good little people. And I don't know why anyone would be like, hey, let's not do that. Corporate real estate is also extremely expensive and wasteful. A lot of corporate real estate is going to be in your downtown centers, and it's going to be space that goes, at least it's like the only space that we really have in this city that goes up. You know, we have some high rises, but once you get out of downtown, not a whole lot of up, whole lot of out. We're big on urban sprawl here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. But it's kind of wasteful, and we are in a situation in this city where we have a dramatic number of people who do not have homes, and we have a huge amount of space that is not being used by the corporations because it's empty because they can't use it. But we have yet to put that 2 and 2 together and be like, maybe we could repurpose some of that space and make the world better for these people who are in need. That's just silly commie talk, I know. But at the end of the day, even if you just ignore all of the good you can do with that space, if you just look at it from the snarky capitalist perspective, I am John Q, business owner now. I own a business. It's a successful business of 500 gainfully employed souls. And over COVID, I had to send them home to work. And it cost me a laptop, and it cost me maybe a VPN connection or something like that. But they were able to continue working. And now I want to get them back in the office. But, let's think about that for a second. We're spending an awful lot of money on corporate real estate. Like a shit ton of money. What do we get out of it? The ability to watch people work. Well, that's cool. I mean, there are other ways to watch people work. You can have your management of those people actually, engaged and understand how to assess whether or not they're seeing production and performance by their staff. That might be a thing. Might be, setting up quotas or expectations or whatever, right? There's a lot of ways to do that rather than just knowing that at any moment you could walk in and look over and, oh, he's on Hotmail. That's not working. That's not thriving my bottom line, baby. So what the fuck is the point? Extremely expensive space with no real value associated with it. Cool story. I just don't see it. It makes no sense to me. The second thing that, and again, these are clearly not in order because this one is probably much more important. People are worth caring for. We should have realized that whatever the circumstances, whatever the situation, the people who are in our society with us, we should do things to look after them. This includes things like, I would say, getting vaccinated. I'm not going to get into the vaccine debate. I know there are people who will disagree with me, and on another occasion we can fist fight in a parking lot over it. But at the very least, wearing a mask, social distancing, these kinds of things that do not, contrary to what your wackadoo uncle might tell you, they don't affect your health. They don't affect your anything. Staying home for a little while sucked. We all hated it. And in some cases, it was really bad because there are people who were in bad situations in their home or who reacted very poorly to the sense of isolation. I totally get that. But we didn't know at that time what we were up against, and we wanted to err on the side of caution, and we did. We stayed home. It was good. Not doing that, the people who refused and who were like actively opposed to these basic things that we can do just to try and keep a fucking lid on this, that ain't the lesson we were supposed to learn. The lesson we were supposed to learn was that we have freedom and we are willing to put ourselves through a little bit of discomfort sometimes if it means that the people around us are protected. And I think that was an important missed lesson. Number 3, I'd go with healthcare is a fundamental human right that needs more funding. I had this conversation a while back with a buddy of mine who was a libertarian, and he was talking about how, things like housing are not human rights. And I'm going to argue that I don't care if on a genetic level we are owed housing or we are owed food or we are owed whatever. I'm just going to say that as a society, we should just accept that and just say, okay, well, it is a fundamental right, and we're going to treat it as such. And that's kind of the bottom line because Stone Cold says so, right? Where's the harm in that? Like I said, we have this giant amount of empty space that we could be repurposing for the purposes of housing people who need that, or making rents more suitable for actual human beings to actually live, rather than having like 17 20-year-olds living in a 4-bedroom condo or whatever. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic, but access to housing should just be something that we're like, yeah, you're a person, you need a house. I live in a place where it gets fuck off cold. You can actually look it up in the metric system. There is a point where it's fuck off cold, and that's what we get in the winter. And if it's fuck off cold, or maybe where you live it gets fuck off hot, people need shelter from the elements. That's a basic human need. It's a fundamental right, in my opinion, that we should be putting there. Healthcare is the same thing. We cut all, for many years here in sunny Calgary, Alberta, Canada, we kept cutting healthcare and talking about healthcare waste. And that's the whole thing. We've talked about this a million times, about the difference between healthcare as an industry versus healthcare as a service. If it's a service, then there is no expense. It's or not there is no expense, but like it's an expense that we all agree as a society to pay, which is what happened when we brought in universal health care way back in like the 60s. It's not by any means full and perfect and all encompassing, but it should be. And the system that we currently have should be funded and supported to ensure that there is not a tremendous amount of waste, but that there is a tremendous amount of value to the public. And what we've done is we've allowed conservative politicians primarily to erode that, to chip away at access to healthcare, and to do so by cutting finances and cutting all of the funding that hospitals and other health institutions get. And then we go, hey, that's weird. Our healthcare system isn't doing great. And the conservatives go, yeah, right? So lame that they can't even run a healthcare system. But you know who can? Private industry. And we've seen what that looks like. It's not good. It's not perfectly flawed or anything. But I personally, as a Canadian, don't want to see people go without access to healthcare just because they don't have money. And I would include myself in that pile. I have money, but I don't have let's piss away $50,000 on an MRI kind of money. Then I would be asking for you to subscribe. But no, don't subscribe. When we cut the piss out of our healthcare spending, we weaken the system so that it cannot withstand a pandemic. Now, people are actually quite right to say that we overreacted in some regards. I disagree that it was an overreaction because, we did not know what we were up against, and we didn't know how the mutations of the disease were going to go, all that kind of stuff. We erred on the side of caution, which is an overreaction perhaps, but a good and a reasonable one. It is better to overreact for the public safety than to underreact and go, oops, sorry, dead people. One of the things that I kept stressing is the reason why we were doing this stuff was to essentially maintain our healthcare system. If the system gets flooded, it can't be there for people, and that's bad. Bad. So the reason it's in the situation it's in is because it's so poorly funded, and the machinations behind getting additional funding are difficult and not popular. I recognize I live in a very conservative place, very conservative. And, these are people who are like, well, why should we have universal health care? I can just get, better health care by getting private health care. Some of those people actually can because they're the rich and famous, or at least the rich. It's still Calgary. No one's famous here. But there's also the people who think that, but it's because they don't really get it. Because they're not going to have the money to spend $50,000 on an MRI like most of us. So yeah, healthcare, if we had funded it all along in an appropriate sort of manner, not closing hospitals, not getting rid of beds, not closing down entire mental health institutes, maybe we would have had a better chance of less rigid responses. Overreaction, my ass, don't appease. I don't consider an overwhelmed healthcare system in wave 1, 2, and 3, and people on ventilators dying in overreaction. We flatten the curve, no overreaction. Caution, learning, yes. Overreaction, right wing horseshit words. That's fair. I think that what I'm trying to get across is that if the system had been there to meet the demand, we would not have had that. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're calling me on shit. You are right. I am Canadian. I am trying to be politic, and I probably shouldn't be. Because, you can call it an overreaction, but a lot of fucking people died, and a lot of fucking healthcare workers were run to their absolute ragged. And a lot of people couldn't get help for legitimate things that they had, health issues like surgeries and things that they couldn't get access to because the system was flooded. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Yep, I agree. So you are correct to call me out on that. I'll take that. I'll take that slap. We're good. So yeah, we should have funded the fuck out of healthcare all along. We didn't, and we wound up paying the price for it. And a lot of people, in my opinion, died unnecessarily, because I don't believe that COVID is the super dangerous predator that it was. It killed a lot of people because we weren't prepared and because we didn't react. I like your premise. The example is wanting is all. Yeah, and that's totally fair. I'm winging it here. You know, sometimes I'm gonna say things that are, I'm trying to be politically expedient, but I'm still underglazing the donut. So you're good to call me out on it. Here's another one. Jails are unnecessarily full, and we probably need to look at how and why we incarcerate people. You remember when jails were a big conversation? People were like, COVID is hitting jails, and people are like, really getting sick because there's no space, there's no nothing. And that kind of brings up this whole prison industrial complex thing. Hang on one second. Having a healthcare system we all pay into and benefit from more equally is good. Prepping for a pandemic like that, maybe. I don't think prepping for a pandemic is the answer, for the record. I think having a healthcare system that is robust and can react, and that has the ability through various legislative decisions to react to these kinds of things, not to be prepared so that at any moment we could have 1/3 of the population in hospitals. I don't think that's a feasible thing. But, if we had needed that, we should have been able to pivot to that very quickly, even if it meant, converting existing facilities and all that kind of stuff. Jails are a business. People who lie, cheat, steal, etc. should be in jail. How much is systemic and a business with a profit motive versus a system with a reform or keep them away from the rest of us motive? I would argue that, in my opinion, prisons are a means for us to do punishment. I'm not opposed to prisons. I do believe, unlike many of my fellow lefties, I do believe there is a necessity for having a way to remove people from society who are not doing the things that allow them to be in a society. I'm not against that. What I'm against is how frequently we utilize jails. And I'm a Canadian, so I've got it way better than Americans. Fuck rapists, fuck murderers, fuck mafia, fuck a bunch of people who are legitimately, regularly dangerous to the society and to the balance of that society. But drug dealers. Trump the other day was calling for Congress to enact legislation to greet the drug dealers with the death penalty. Like, what in the actual fuck, dude? Let's try looking at material realities and fixing people's lives so they don't have to be fucking drug dealers, and they don't have the same push for access to drugs. That might be a thing. But our jails are full, and a lot of our jails are full for really dumb reasons. People who, in my opinion, are not a threat to society, and are there because they happen to have the combination of being poor and desperate. You remove poor and desperate, all of a sudden you got empty jails, except for those that are like bad people. Is a drug dealer a bad person? Maybe. But probably the only reason they're a bad person is because they got there. We have a link here. Statista.com. Oh, let's pop it open and see what we're looking at here. I trust you. I am Canadian. What is this? Distribution of adult population in federal correction services by race. I have a suspicion I know what this is going to look like. Let's find out together, shall we? I'll give you, before I hit enter on the screen, which you can't even see, so I'll switch over to my browser view, and you can be like, haha, that's what Jim's watching. I was watching Hassan make fun of Candace Owens. So my prediction here is that in Canada, it'll be primarily Indigenous people or very close to primarily Indigenous people, and that white people will be a very small percentage. Let's find out together, shall we? Distribution of adult population in federal correction services in Canada in February 2020 by self-reported race. So white is 53.7%. So my bad, but that stands to reason because white is the majority of Canadian citizens. Indigenous, 26.1%. And I believe Indigenous people make up like 5% of the population. That's a weirdly disparate number. I bet there's reasons for that, and I bet they're not because Indigenous people are just bad. Black is 8.31% of the population, prison population. Asian, 5.9%. And other unknown, 5.1%. And, Hispanic, 1.1%. None of this surprises me terribly. The only thing that I wasn't thinking when I said, like, Canadians are the jails are going to be mostly not white. That was a dumb thing on my... Yeah, 72% of the Canadian population is white. It stands to reason that the majority, in a perfect system, you would assume that you'd have 72% of your prisoners being white. But it's only 53.7%. 4.9% is Indigenous, yet they are overly represented in prison. Yes, and that is problematic because that shows, doesn't guarantee, but it's pretty goddamn close to a guarantee that you have a system that is treating certain people disfavorably and stacking against them. That's what we wanted. That's the system we designed. Whether we want it now, this is the system we're dealing with, and we probably need to look at that and say this isn't right. How it relates to COVID, it should have been a beacon to us that, like, okay, we only have finite space that we're using for prisons, and it's full beyond what we would consider a reasonable capacity, and certainly not full or too full to be able to handle any kind of a pandemic. Okay, so what do we do? Do we build more prisons? Probably not. That's a whole lot of cost for not a whole lot of benefit. Or we can look at what we're putting people in prison for and say, maybe we're being dicks here. Maybe we're missing the fucking point. Maybe if we look at it realistically, poverty is the thing that most people... Yeah, poverty, systemic racism, I'm sure none of this is a factor. Exactly. Poverty is the biggest reason why people end up in jail, and systemic racism generally contributes to the idea that certain people are going to be living in poverty versus other people with the white skin. That's okay. Like, we just have to be able to say, hey, that's not okay. We should do something about this. We should be able to honestly and reasonably look at that and objectively say, there's nothing forcing people, of varying skin types to be, criminals. What makes people criminals is the poverty that they were raised in, and the poverty they were raised in probably has a lot to do with the society that they're born into, and so we can address these things. Social work is hard, prison is easy, absolutely. Same with mental health, same with a variety of things. If we take care of our poor and huddled masses, that requires effort. It requires cost, and a lot of people don't like spending money on shit. And I get that, but then you're spending money on other shit, right? People are like, well, why should I be forced to, house some mentally ill person in a hospital when they probably could live a normal life? And then so you close the hospital down, and then not all of, but a goodly number of the people who were in that system now move into the prison system. And now you go, well, yeah, they're violent criminals. We can't have them in our society. What if we had, like, helped? That might be a thing we could have done there. Could have made things a little bit better. We are too quick to jail people. We are too quick to look at that as the answer. And then once people are jailed, a lot of the time, staying out of jail becomes even harder because you lose options. So all of a sudden, shit ain't easy. And what can you do? Especially if you're coming from poverty and your criminal charge is something like, let's say, drug dealing, and you get out of jail and people are like, well, you're a convicted drug dealer. I don't want you working for me. So what do? How do you pay your rent? You probably go back to drug dealing, even if you didn't want to, even if you wanted to step away from that. It's very difficult to do so. Not impossible, but really fucking hard. So the next thing, this is a big one. Workers have rights. Now, we didn't apply that across the board, obviously. We certainly were more than happy to keep our meat processing plants open and full of people coughing all over each other. I get that we're not perfect here. But we learned a little bit about workers' rights. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of strikes happen, and successful strikes. And those were net positives for not just the people who were working there, but for labor as a whole. We forget about labor all the time, and it bugs the shit out of me because organized labor is fucking necessary. Companies will not look out for you because they don't have to. Their job, their legal business requirement is to make as much money for as little cost as they can. We live in a world where we take that mantra to like ridiculous levels. At the end of the day, like, I have a good gig with a good company that pays me well. I'm very lucky in that regard. Not everyone has that, but my company, if they felt that they could get my level of expertise for half the price, don't tell me they'd be like, nah, but Jim's a really good fellow. He's got kids. He's got to worry about that. No. And it's not that the company is a bunch of jerks. That's how capitalism do. So capitalism, if we're going to live in a capitalist society, which we are, then we have to have the counterbalance of organized labor. We have to have people who are there standing up for the rights of the working class. And that is something that continuously gets hit on. Unions are still largely unpopular, even though their whole job is to protect the worker. A lot of people are like, hey, I don't want to be in the union. They're just taking my money and they're not doing anything. Aren't they? I think the good old days will help. Corporal punishment, good old-fashioned Christian values, priests who look after our children. Our morals are causing all our problems. You are correct, sir. We need to get back to Jesus. Jesus is, his loving arms, or at least the loving arms of a priest. Labor rights, you lefty socialist. Workers are resources you exploit. And they are. And as much as I want a system of public ownership and all of that kind of stuff, we're living in a democracy and a dictatorship, and that's just how shit is. Dictatorship? I said the wrong word. We're living in a capitalist democracy. Sorry, need more coffee. And as long as we're living in a capitalist system, then we have to have something to protect us from the exploitation of the labor owners and the production owners. And that's cool. Until such time as we can get into a socialist dreamscape, this is what we need. And if we never get into a socialist dreamscape, this is what we need. So there you go. The next one, that which separates us is largely imaginary. We create borders, we create cultures, all of these things that we build around ourselves to allow us to have an in-group and out-group. At the end of the day, we're all people, and we know this, right? Like, we just passed September 11th. A lot of people remembering fondly all of these wonderful moments about September 11th. Some people are remembering some of the uglier moments around September 11th, like the way that Muslims were treated in various scenarios. Or brown people in general. We are not that different. We may have different philosophies, we may have different beliefs, but at the end of the day, we all have to look out for each other. We're just people. And that should be important. That should be something that we care about. I shouldn't have to look at helping people and be like, but it stops at my border, or it stops at my religion, or it stops at my job group, or whatever in-group I happen to choose. People needed help. And in this case, we didn't do that. We did a really good job of the wealthiest countries getting access to things like vaccinations and getting their problems under control. Meanwhile, poorer countries that didn't have those resources, that were mostly peopled by people who didn't look like me, suffered. And that's where a lot of variations and mutations came from of this disease. If we had taken a different approach and just said, okay, well, the world needs help, let's fix the world, it would have been, more expensive, and the weight of that would have been shouldered by some of the wealthier countries more than others. But okay, we probably would have had a lot less death, a lot less frustration, a lot less, you know, potential bad if we had done that, if we had cared enough about people. When did unions become uncapitalist? If you have the right to deploy money and resources for profit, surely I have the right to organize my power as a worker with other workers. Competition is better, right? I agree. I have never understood why people see unionization as a net negative. The best I could use as an analogy would be like unionization is like an enactment of the invisible hand, right? That's supposed to guard and protect the people who are at the bottom from the people who are at the top. That's what unions do. And if you live in a capitalist system, you expect that there would be some protection for workers, because otherwise, left to its own devices, capitalism does bad things. That's why we had a New Deal in the first place. You know, we have to protect workers from the excesses of capitalism, and that's just that. Now, I personally would like it if we did a lot more in that regard, and you know, that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, as long as we're in this capitalist system, unions are a necessity, and they are, in my opinion, a valuable component of capitalism that will keep capitalism thriving and not bring it to a screeching halt. Here's an example. Everyone hates when you call the help desk and the guy comes and answers the phone and he's not from this here country. That is because organized labor isn't involved in the world of help desk phone answering. No one is saying, well, you have to keep, have a certain percentage of those jobs be Canadian, citizens. And as a result, the business goes, oh, well, I can just like offshore those jobs. And yeah, your level 1 support's going to suck, but it sucks anyway, right? So you just go, well, to save money, we're going to send all of that work over to a poorer country where we can pay pennies on the dollar for what we would be paying here. Cool. Now, I am for supporting the poorer countries. I just think this is the wrong way to go about doing it. And the end result is, A, company saves money, but B, entry-level jobs go away. This is a thing that I've been harping on for years now, especially I work in IT, and IT is very, very guilty of this. There are no entry-level jobs anymore, right? You don't just get to be a help desk guy, answer the phone and be like, hello, yes, I don't understand the problem. Have you tried rebooting your computer? Okay, I'll pass you on to someone who knows things. That's how people start to learn. That was my first job in IT. I was a help desk flunky. And I did not have the kind of depth of information available to me and experience available to me to do more than basically just this. But if I was graduating today, how am I going to get that job? That job doesn't exist, right? Development jobs are very difficult to find that pay a reasonable rate here in Calgary. And on and on and on. There's all kinds of, and I'm certain it's not specific to my industry, but my industry is one I know fairly well. I've actually, had a job that got sold out from under me for offshoring. And in that circumstance, it was not a terrible end result for me, but it could have been real fucking bad. Thankfully, it wasn't. And my career has only improved from that particular moment. And I got a retention bonus. This was many years ago, and it's all spent now, so don't ask me for money. But damned if that wasn't a positive. Workers have rights. That which separates us is largely imaginary. We wanted, and a large portion, I think, of the population understood that we had to come together. I think we lost the plot on who gets to come together, and I think we were comfortable with the idea that, or at least comfortable with not approaching the idea that, oh, you gotta go, take care, Rambasan, I am Canadian, always a pleasure, my friend. I think we were comfortable with the idea that we didn't need to think about the third world, and then we did, because that's where variations started to show up. So if we had put aside all that separates us and focused on what binds us together and worked together as a people, a global people, things would have gone different. The next one. Corporate profits and CEO paychecks are too goddamn high. I don't even know if I need to explain that. But the focus on sucking money up into the hands of people who are already wealthy, that's doing well. That's doing well. We're doing great. Can't think of a single thing wrong with that. Yeah, I got nothing. Just makes sense. Just makes sense. Fucked up whole. Next one, because I really just can't imagine having to explain that. The next one, the workers we pay the most are the least essential, and vice versa. I will factor myself into this to a certain degree. I do believe that the pay that I get, I earn through being a very useful resource. I'm not saying that I don't, but I would argue that I probably am not more meritorious than a lot of people who get paid a lot less money than me. I'm not a rich man by any stretch, but I'm in that middle class zone, or at least I would be if I was good with money and didn't use it to support all the people in my universe. But the essential workers, who were they? They were doctors and doctors and other healthcare workers, absolutely. But they were fast food staff. They were meatpacking plant staff. They were delivery drivers. They were all sorts of things. People who did not get giant salaries. Now, who does get the giant salaries are people at the top and people who could have not done their jobs and nothing would have changed. That's maybe something we should consider. The way that we divvy up the resources because of unregulated capitalism says we should just keep hawking buckets of money at very smart people who are in very good jobs and assume that they're there because they are very smart and deserve very good jobs. Maybe we should be looking at the people who we actually rely on and saying, we need to make sure you are taken care of. I'm not saying let's give CEO profits all to, so that every single McDonald's worker is making CEO money. That's a ridiculous argument too. But surely there's a balance. Surely we can find a way to make sure that the people who we actually rely on are well compensated for this. Seems a thing. How many more do I have here? 3 more. 2 more. Sorry, I just did that one. So this would be number 9 then. We should probably stop associating diseases with groups. Listening to Trump talk about the China virus is disgusting. It is disgusting. It is a way to just weaponize racism. And he knew what he was doing because he's a populist. And anytime he can weaponize people and get them to support him over someone else or something else, he's just all fucking in. And I get that. I understand how it works. I just don't think it's good. Funny that. When we said that this was from Wuhan, a lot of people got real bitter towards China. The fact that China is not our friend, and I think that's a reasonable take to say, meant that people would feel okay and comfortable being shitty about China. No, bad. It's fine to say I don't like China's politics. I don't like aspects of Chinese culture. I don't like the way that the Chinese Communist Party runs their country. Those are all valid things that you can theoretically talk about. But assuming that we got a disease because the people from Asian countries run their societies different and all that kind of stuff, or that their government is trying to murder us all over, that's not fucking cool. Unless you can actually know that this is the case, then you're just fomenting hatred for no apparent reason. Then when monkeypox popped its little poxy head up, what did we do? We saw that it was spreading primarily in the gay community. Did that mean that monkeypox is for the queeros? That God hates gays and that therefore he invented a monkeypox? Probably not. In fact, I think what it says is that that is a very small community that is often quite tight-knit, and diseases that affect one will spread quicker through that than through a lot of other groups. Making it a thing that we go, well, that's a gay disease, or that's a Spanish people's disease. Like, nothing good comes from this except for othering the people. So let's stop fucking doing that. Right? We must have learned a lesson along the line, right? Turns out HIV didn't come from a gay man having sex with a monkey. That's not a thing that happened, but people will fucking do that because ignorance is a powerful force. So let's do other things. Let's be smart about stuff. Let's not other people in the names of diseases. The Spanish flu, not a good name. Bird flu, I'm fine. Fuck birds. They're not even real. The last one, and I think personally that this is the most important one, universal basic income is a better use of public money than corporate investment. Here in Soviet Kazakhstan, we had a phenomenally successful program called SERB. It is not without flaws, absolutely. But SERB was an immediate, essentially, a UBI. Anyone who lost their job or who, needed it, could basically just go, hey, need me some of that SERB money. And they got $2,000 a month. I look at America, I have no idea how you motherfuckers survived. I have no idea. You got what, like $1,600 and then another $400 or whatever, however that worked. You got like 1 month of SERB for the entire fucking duration. That's fucked. We chose to spend money on John Q. Public. Now, this is a more extreme version of what a UBI would be, because a lot of the people who ended up going on SERB were people who, under normal conditions, would not have been on SERB. They had jobs that would have guaranteed them more than that price tag. Cool. But what was the net end result of this? First off, people weren't losing their homes. People weren't losing their homes means they're not winding up in desperation. Things were not good for any of us, don't get me wrong, but people were not like robbing banks or selling drugs to pay the bills. People had that covered. That fear was gone. So they could focus on other things. Second off, they were buying their avocado toast. Goddamn millennials eating their avocado toast. You know what? Eat that fucking avocado toast. Eat the shit out of it. Why? Because turns out that was much more important economic activity, keeping us around as a society. All of the skip the dishes ordering, all of the going to the local restaurant and dropping some money, even the shit where we gave Bezos our money and bought all sorts of shit online. That all is economic stimulation. That money is taxed. The revenues from that money are taxed. Taxation on a dollar is, essentially limitless until such time as that dollar stops circulating. Giving money to large corporations, as we did here in Canada, we gave money to certain large oil companies who then moved to the States. They used that money to fuck off. We gave money to certain corporations under the premise that we would get a pipeline built. And then the U.S. government was like, no, we're not doing that. Which was no fucking surprise to anyone. And, allow me to just say neener. Not that you would have had, the pipeline built in time to deal with the current gas prices, but still neener. The money that we threw to the big corporations and to wealthy people just stops. Comes to a hard stop. The money that we threw to the poors and to the working class who were in tough times circulated like fuck. Kept on moving, kept on maintaining its momentum and kept the society afloat. I am not a big fan of giant corporations, obviously, but you know what? I will accept the fact that I live in a world where they exist and where that makes sense to people, and that's fine. And I do believe that there are times where you need to step in and support even the most gigantic of businesses, because of the potential impact to the overall society should they fail. But the people is what keep this whole fucking country moving. And that CERB program that allowed people to stay home, that allowed people to keep their homes and keep their food on the table and all of that shit during this ugly period was vital to our getting through. Now, in a non-pandemic time, if you say, okay, average cost of living is X, we're going to make a universal basic income that is X plus 10, 20%, whatever magic number you come up with. Yeah, there's cost associated with that. Not everyone's going to get a check for X plus 20%. Most people are working jobs that will come somewhere in there. Some people, like myself, will have jobs that I'll never see this money. But should the need ever exist, I would like it to be there. More importantly, when we ensure that people at all levels of society can at least have a reasonable standard of life, we remove a lot of cost from that society. People are like, how are you going to pay for this? How about by reducing prisons? How about by reducing the amount of police officers? And I'm not talking about, all cops are bad and get rid of cops and all that kind of shit. I'm saying if you address people's fundamental challenges and improve their reality, you dramatically lessen their need for incarceration, even in our current system. You dramatically increase people's access to things like mental health or social work services or whatever. There's less likelihood that they will go spinning out of control and create problems that would require them to be incarcerated. And then you can scale back on your prisons and your prison industrial complex. And that's a good thing. Then you have more people contributing. It just makes sense. So yeah, there's 10 things. 10 things that we should have learned from the pandemic, but we did not. Because we are dumb and stupid, and that is the way the world is. I'm going to take me a little break. I'm going to take about a 5-minute break. I'm going to run out and stand outside and not do anything that would be immoral. In the meantime, I'm going to make you listen to cheesy music that I created, because that's the kind of monster I am. So here you go, and I will be right back. back. I will stop the music, and I will take the thing off my face, and we will continue ever onwards. All right, that was a fun little process. I gotta say, I enjoyed that. It was an interesting thing that popped into my head, and I'm glad we took the time. Speaking of taking the time, though, we're gonna do some digging into this thing I keep hearing about called quiet quitting. Because I have a funny feeling like quiet quitting is actually a bullshit term that we should call out. But let's find out. I actually don't know much about this. I've heard, this is basically what I've heard. Oh, these millennials and Gen Zs are quiet quitting. And what that means is that they're only doing the bare basic, this is their job, and that's all they're doing. And it's their way of like, fine, fuck it. I'm not leaving, but I'm not doing anything else. If that is the case, I can tell you I have been quiet quitting since about 5 years into my career or something like that. I was working originally when I got hired with a consulting firm, and I was doing a lot of consulting work and getting grievously exploited. And I was getting paid 160 hours a month, and I was putting in about 200 hours a month. And then I got a job on top of that teaching college. And I was working about 60, 70, 80 hours a month and getting paid 20 hours a month. And I did the math on that, and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. I'm killing myself here. And for what? The answer was because I'm a dummy who needs to not do that anymore. So I stopped. I switched to being a contractor with the consulting firm, wherein I would get paid exactly what hours I worked. And I switched out of, I completely removed the teaching thing because it was just not financially viable. And they wanted me to have a master's degree, which I do not have. They were offering to pay for it, but only in particular sort of circumstances, and they were not circumstances I was terribly down with, so fuck it. And I've been doing that ever since. I am more than happy to work more than 160 hours a month, as long as you're happy to pay me for more than 160 hours a month. The minute that isn't a thing, then all you're asking me to do is devalue myself. So let's take a look at quiet quitting and understand what it is and what it means and whether we should give fuck number one about it. So first off, let's go to the old google.com. And I'm going to type in quiet quitting. I have not done this yet. Quiet quitting is a fake trend. Why does it feel real? College students are quiet quitting to preserve their mental health. Minnesota among top 5 states for quiet quitting. Management's answer to quiet quitting. Some are quiet firing. So I want to read that one. That sounds interesting. But we're going to just answer the important question. What is quiet quitting? We're just going to go to this, whatever, hub.jhu. Oh, Johns Hopkins University. What is quiet quitting? Rick Smith of the Carey Business School talks about what this TikTok buzzword really means for workers and workplaces. From Bartley the Scrivener telling his 18th century employer, I would prefer not to George Costanza setting up a nap station beneath his desk in the 1990s, quiet quitting, broadly understood as a retreat from the workplace ambition, is not a new concept, but the alliterative buzzword born on TikTok is novel in the scope of the national conversation it has launched, one that CEOs can't ignore. I bet they can. The term has taken on a life of its own with multiple interpretations, but there is consensus that the quiet part is not literal, the quitting part is not literal. Under any definition, quiet quitting means remaining in one's workplace while not actively going above and beyond. For workforce expert Rick Smith, professor of practice and vice dean of education and partnerships of the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, the rise of a social media workplace sentiment to mainstream attention is a story in itself. How can something go from TikTok to the Wall Street Journal and the Harvard Business Review? It's fascinating to see the groundswell support for a new workplace concept, he says. I'm wondering what's next. What other marketplace trends are going to see from a bottom-up approach? How will this change the way we think about the future of work? I think that's kind of a funny statement, honestly, because maybe you've heard of words like blockchain. Those came from social media. And yet now they're ubiquitous with executives who don't know what they mean, but will use them quite a lot. The Hub reached out to Smith for thoughts on quiet quitting and its workplace opposite, quiet firing. What is the deal with quiet quitting? We're seeing this phrase being used in two different ways. One concept is removing yourself from the climb the ladder mindset of decelerating the career ambition to focus more on other aspects of life. This is often considered as a rebalancing. We sometimes see this with new parents, for example, who realize there's so much more to life than working to death. Certain life events can also trigger this type of rebalancing, such as 9/11 attacks. While this concept is not new, the phrase quiet quitting has caught on as it perhaps captures the impact of the pandemic on the lives of many people. Around the world, we see many people making life changes as a result of their experience and reflections during COVID-19. The other way that the term quiet quitting is being used is less positive in nature. In this context, people are not happy with their job or employer and may think, my job is awful, I don't like my company, so I'm going to quit putting in effort but keep the paycheck. In this interpretation, people are doing the bare minimum, perhaps a step short of actively trying to get fired. I think this is where my fucking hackles get raised every time. I've heard this as sort of the definition of quiet quitting, and I do not like it. Because, as I said, what I have done in my career is essentially exactly this. I am more than happy to put the work in if you're happy to compensate me for it. If you are not, then I'm not just going to give you my labor for freezies. That seems dumb. People who work in organized labor will understand the phrases like work to rule. Work to rule is where you say, okay, I'm not going to do all of the myriad of other things that I do in my job that are above and beyond. I'm going to exactly fulfill my job description. That sounds reasonable in my opinion. I grew up as the child of two teachers, and they're I very much understood that they were not compensated for half of what they did. My dad would coach the girls' basketball team. Was not compensated for that. It was an act of something that he wanted to do out of love. Any school non-accredited teams or clubs or whatever, that was all just given out, time given by the teacher to the students. Obviously, the exception would be things like, the football program. Hey, I've got a new Ranger and Rogue. I know you, Ranger and Rogue. We debated once, if I'm not mistaken. It's good to see you. Welcome to the stream. We're just talking about how dumb the concept of quiet quitting is. So if you wanna chat with me, feel free. And Danabo's, oh my goodness, Danabo, Ranger and Rogue. I'm doing well. I am doing well. Danabo, how are you, my friend? I have never seen you in my stream, I don't think. Have special for me. And I got all dressed up in my best tank top and looking all sweaty and gross. Yeah, so I absolutely am supportive of the idea of this quiet quitting, which is just like a new label for a very old concept that I partake in. I worked a couple of contracts ago. I was working for a contract that it was pretty clear that they were going to need me to work like 200 hours a month minimum to get across the finish line. And I did. And they paid me 200 hours a month. If they had said to me, hey, listen, this is the scope of the project. We really need to get this done, but we're only going to pay you for, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I'd have been like, that's cool. Then that's what you're getting. Because I don't give my time for free. Now I do, just not to my bosses. I give my time for free to any number of things, like being a musician, being a dad, being a million things, because those are things I'm willing to invest my labor and my heart into. But fuck it when people are like, hey, we should just exploit you further and you be okay with it. Well, right there, fella. Not for me. So yeah, the quiet quitting is interesting. I want to see about where we go here. Is quiet quitting the right name, or should it be called something else? Well, keeping with the idea of alliteration to describe the phenomenon, career coasting and boundary balancing address aspects of the first definition. In this case, a person may temper ambitions while still meeting expectations by taking measures to contain work hours and managing work-life pressures. A good example of how I do this is I have taken to the habit of going for a nappy at lunch, right? Still taking the same amount of break. I don't take a 4-hour nap. But man, what a great way to do, right? If you work from home and you can have like a 20-minute nap, fuck, what a brilliant choice. What a great idea. And, I'm not getting paid for that time, so that's okay. It's me doing my thing on my time. The other meaning could be called revenge recalibration. In that case, a person may be using the work modalities or talent shortages to take advantage of the employer by not working to full potential. Cyber loafing is also a term we've seen used to describe people who are doing other things while working online. So those are two different things. I do believe that cyber loafing is real. I've known people who I see that you're, even back in the in-office days for me, like there are people I worked with and you're like, you don't do anything. How are you getting paid? That's very real. But the idea of implying that the people who are working to the mandate of what they've agreed to is cyber loafing, cyber fuck yourself. That's a whole lot of horse shit. As you said, these ideas aren't new, so why do you think the phrase quiet quitting is striking such a chord now? Before I read that, I'm just going to say my answer to that would be because people who like buzzwords, and when there's a new buzzword that they can use to either promote an idea that they think is a cool one or to degrade an idea that they think is a bad one, people's going to do it. That's why the Wall Street Journal cares about quiet quitting. It's not because they're like, oh, what an interesting new phenomenon that we must talk about and address. It's because they're like, well, fuck the world. Let's make these kids feel bad for letting down industry. In my field, we talk about workforce effects in different ways. There's one phenomenon called the cohort effect, and that's when an entire population experiences life-changing events at the same time. If we go back in U.S. history, we see the cohort effect with the World Wars and the Great Depression. These are significant events that change people's outlook and mindset. The coronavirus pandemic has been a cohort effect as it affected the entire population. As a result, the concept of quiet quitting is resonating because it has been a time of reflection as people reassess their priorities and consider the fragile nature of humanity. We have also seen new emphasis on well-being, which feeds into the idea of people taking better care of themselves. I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm probably wrong, so I'm willing to just say that. Some researchers have focused on generational differences in the workplace. This one pisses me off. While we may see Gen Z leading the quiet quitting conversation, the concept is resonating with older generations as well. Some people have become tired of running the rat race. I would be an example of that. I'm never going to be a CEO. I know that. I've never really deluded myself into thinking that this was, on the list of stuff that I could accomplish. So instead, I just okay, I don't fucking care. I'm not going to be CEO, so I'll just do me. Some people have become tired of running the rat race and maybe downsizing to simplify their lives. It is noteworthy, however, that the revenge recalibrating concept of quiet quitting and the don't try mindset is receiving some backlash from older workers who have previously poured their time and energy into their jobs. There is still a sense that young workers should be focused on getting the right start in their careers by working hard. To me, this is very much like the mentality that says, hey, we're going to forgive student loan debt. Well, I had to pay my student loan. Okay, good. You lived up to those terms and conditions. That's fucking sweet. We're changing the rules now, and sorry about your luck that you came along earlier and had the ability to pay back your student loan. Cool. Likewise, hey, I'm not gonna do what you did and sweat equity my way into nothingness. I'm just gonna work and be happy and try to have a work-life balance. You can be upset about that. Cool, die mad about it, as the kids say. I'm pretty much over reading about this because I think I've basically got the general jism of it. Here's my take on this. This is snark, pure snark. So what we're talking about is we are talking about businesses seeing a trend that they don't like. When I worked for a company a while back, I worked in an energy company, and the oil prices were low. We're not talking about low during Trump. We're talking about bad low, but not apocalyptic low. But the companies, all of the companies were like, hey, we need to pull in our belts and bootstraps and things. And so guys like me, I was a contractor, and I got a message from the company I was consulting through, and they were like, hey, we just got this letter that says you're getting 10% of your rate just cut, and that you don't have to accept this, but if you do, we'll just end your contract. If you don't accept it, we'll end your contract. So I was coerced into taking a 10% pay cut, which was really fun and really cool. You know, I'm definitely someone who can afford to just lose 10% of their income, like most of us. And that fucking sucked. Where was I going with that? Ugh, my brain. Essentially, like I learned a long time ago that there's no loyalty for me from corporations, and that my generation and below, like I'm Gen X, I'm old as shit, and my generation and below really fucking got pounded on by that. We were taught very clearly, this is how the world is. You will wake up in the morning and go to your job and love it, and it'll be there for you. You're gonna work 70 years for the same company, and they're gonna give you a fucking clock and a dinner, and it'll be great. That was the world we were told about, and that is not the world that we got. I don't even know how many companies I've worked for off the top of my head as a professional grown-ass adult. But it's a bunch. It's a whole fucking bunch. And that's because society changed. All of these concepts need to change with it. Things like quiet quitting, in my opinion, or whatever you want to call it, this is a legitimate, reasonable argument to say, hey, maybe we're just not going to be as exploited as we used to be. That might be a fucking thing. And good. That's workers standing up for themselves. And in a disorganized fashion, but cool, nonetheless, super cool. It puts the onus on business to address these problems. I'm good with that. Business is the unregulated. Business will always do less and less for staff as long as they can get away with it. I remember hearing about, like, when I worked at McDonald's, we got minimum wage. And a few years after that, well, probably like a decade after that, McDonald's was paying like $3 or $4 over minimum wage. And I was like, holy shit, how did that happen? And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, they just can't find staff. No one's, at that particular moment in the economy, people were not interested in working a shitty job for minimum wage. They would only do it for a little bit more. And time marched on, and all of a sudden, we're back to minimum wage. Why? Because they can. It's not that McDonald's was like, you know what, we've had a change of heart. As a corporation, we've realized that, our strength is our people. And our people are special to us. And so we want to make sure that we're paying more than minimum wage. We want to make sure that we had a scholarship program set up for McDonald's staff who want to go to university, because that was a thing they were doing at the same time too. That was fucking badass. You imagine McDonald's being like, here's a scholarship to college. Thank you for working for us. That's so cool. It doesn't happen as a general rule because they don't have to, because someone else is willing to work for minimum wage. This debate that I watched earlier today, with the Vosh versus the ethno-stater dude. The ethno-stater dude is like, it's not fair that Mexicans are coming in here and they're willing to work for less money. And Vosh is like, well, yeah, so make them citizens and make it so that they're working for minimum wage. It's the thing that would be good for everybody. I don't know, man. I just fucking, I hear these things. I hear when businesses start rambling about this shit, and it kind of tweaks my nips. Because there's no point. There's absolutely zero fucking necessity whatsoever to, coming up with special terms or, finding new ways to describe what is basically people saying, I'm okay with, I'm getting exploited some, but I kind of want to put limits in. Kind of want to decide where I get exploited. And to me, that's a good thing, right? I don't know. I'm a commie. Well, I'm not a commie. We went over this last week. I am a socialist and not a communist. For those that are watching, I went over a little bit. Last week's stream was terrible. I was on Wi-Fi and I had like 98.2% drop frames, so it was super good. But I went over a back and forth I had on a YouTube comment. Some guy challenging me to a debate because I said that I didn't support the Yellow Vesters and he was one of Hawes's people, Infant Red, and yeah, he was all sorts of like, prove your communist chops, and I'm like, I'm not a communist, dude. I don't care what Engels wrote. Do not give a fuck, because I think Engels is a monster. I don't care what Marx wrote, because Marx, he wrote some good stuff, but he wrote some bad stuff, and fuck it all. There is a young man grabbing a backpack near me. It's it's that kind of day where we have backpack grabbing happen. And I just, like, people are so fucking ridiculously black and white. And tankies, who this guy was a tanky because he's one of the Haas gray zone dweebs. They were all, they're very, this is how the world is. I read a book and it said some things, things that I agree with, so therefore it's correct. I wonder who that sounds like, Jesus people. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I do enjoy the Jesus people, though. I was thinking this week about the Jesus people and about the Westbros. It's one of the things I always come back to when I'm thinking about the Jesus people is just how malleable the Bible is. The same book that inspires the acts that my hello Muria with several underscores at the end. Good to have you here. Thank you for following. I am a affiliate now, so theoretically you can subscribe. Please don't. I don't want your money. I legitimately, this isn't like a part of a longer grift. I have a day job. I'm doing this for fun. Feel free to pop into the old chat and say stuff. And if it's objectionable, eventually I'll be angry. But if it's not objectionable, we'll have a good conversation. Where was I going? The Jesus people. Who, I am an atheist. I grew up in a religious tradition that was very, very kind and very, very community oriented. I was a member of the United Church, and the church that I went to, we had the guy who ran the music program was like a draft dodger from the Vietnam War, and it was a very love focused. It was a really positive environment. I had no idea how many people had really shitty experiences with the church and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's my kind of place, but you've piqued my interest. Well, I'm glad, and feel free to stick around and decide whether it is your place or not. It's mostly just me talking, and eventually I'll sing karaoke. So, if that's intriguing, then you're welcome to stay. You're welcome to stay, even if it's not intriguing, and whatever. But anyways, I grew up in this sort of religious tradition, and when I would see things, years later, I would see like the Westboro Baptist Church out there with their angry signs and stuff, and I'd be like, whoa. That's fucked up. And then I listened to what they said, and I was like, oh, I get it, actually. Like, they're Calvinists. They just have a different interpretation of the Bible. The same book that appealed to me as a young, at the time, very liberal, fella, looking to make the world a brighter, shinier place, and that God had a special role for me and all that stuff that I bought into. That same book inspires the Westbros, inspires the Church of Jesus Christ Aryan Nations, inspires so many ugly groups. How is that possible? It's easy. You just read the parts you like, you gloss over the parts you don't like, and you do the whole logical battle to bend your head to or bend the book to your own will. It's just as true as when people read Jordan B. Peterson and they're like, well, he said to clean your room, and that was right. It was really good. So therefore, he must be right about how all women are bad and transes are evil. No, he's right about your room. I'm right about some stuff, and I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. And that's okay. It's perfectly okay. Because the world is a funky place where you can be both right and wrong on different topics. There's nothing wrong with that. But assuming that someone is correct just because they have the same adjectives as you or whatever. Probably not a good idea. I don't know how I rambled all the way over to here, but yeah, Hawes. Hawes is neat. Not my favorite streamer. He's entertaining as all fuck. I'll give him that. I don't personally find it entertaining, but a lot of people do, and I will not, just because I don't get it doesn't mean it ain't good. I don't understand a lot of things that are still good. But yeah, so this kid popped up in YouTube comments on someone else's video, and just back and forth, like, prove to me you're a communist enough. Where do you stand on the Ukraine and NATO? And I was like, no, I don't feel the need to have a debate with you in YouTube comments, you little twink. So that was a fun time. If you're curious, I will say, I do stand with Ukraine. And the reason I stand with Ukraine is exactly because they're being invaded, and invasions are bad. And I also don't stand with when my country invades another country, although I live in Canada, and that doesn't typically happen. I know it's hard to know that I'm Canadian because my head is not severed here and bouncing up and down like a Terrence and Phillip thing, but I assure you, it's true. I'm drinking some mostly cold coffee at this point, and it's kind of all right. My coffee maker broke. It was the saddest day because I just replaced a broken coffee pot. Turns out you can buy shitty coffee pots, so life is good. So yeah, I talked a little bit earlier. We talked about lessons that we should have learned during the pandemic but did not. And then I talked about quiet quitting. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about a different topic. I was watching a video today that gave me some thinking points, and it was someone asking in a much larger context, but saying, like, what's the point of life if not to procreate? And that's an interesting thing. People always try to answer what is the meaning of life? What is the point? And the problem is, we don't really have any good answers. If you have an answer, right on. And if it works for you, that's fucking awesome. As long as you're not hurting other people, I'm just glad that you got an answer. For me, I've had kids, so I did meet that stereotypical, the purpose of life is to promote, reproduce. But I don't think that was the purpose of life, because there are people who are born without the ability to do that. And if that was the case, then what is the purpose of their life? So then we can look for other answers to that question. And every time we do, we come up with stupid shit. I swear to fuck, I can hear like something in the background of my house. It's probably my children are playing video games or something, but it just suddenly was like this. Wah, wah. Anyways, as a kid, I often heard that faith was the purpose of life. The purpose of life was to believe in this case, the Christian God. And cool, that's all right. I don't fault anyone for doing that. I personally don't anymore. Neither here nor there. And if people don't want to believe, that's cool. Or do want to believe, sorry, that's cool. But is that the purpose of life? I find that really hard to imagine, because a lot of people don't. And if I don't have faith. I found that despite being raised in a religious tradition, I didn't have that inside me to, once I started to question, I lost it. So does that mean there is no purpose to my life? I don't think so. If I had been, born in a scenario where I wasn't able to have kids, maybe that was because I was, born infertile and would never produce the appropriate gametes. Or maybe I was a ugly, terrible person. Like, who knows? A lot of people don't have babies. Maybe I just didn't want them. Does that mean there was no point to my life? I don't think so. I think the point to our lives is to do good acts and to treat other people with respect. But that's just how I view it. That clearly, there's plenty of people out there who would not think that was worthwhile. Some people think the point of life is to amass as much as they can. And what it really boils down to, in my opinion, is there is no point. There doesn't have to be a point. there's a bunch of individual points, and fucking right on, right? I'm glad we all have them. I'm glad that we feel good about, hey, this is the thing that I want to do in my life. Right on, fucking A, do your thing, hurt nobody. But maybe that's not everyone's response and everyone's take. It's okay. We don't all have to have a purpose. We don't all have to, have the same purpose. And life is already complex enough that we probably don't need to get all feisty about the purpose of life. So this guy was getting upset because, I think it was the queers were out there having queer sex without, making babies or something, and how that was just morally wrong because, the purpose of life was to make babies. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what a sad world you live in that you're this upset about something so completely inconsequential as what other people do with their bits. Right? If it's not going in my mouth, I pretty much lose interest. It's not for me to care about. As a person, like, yeah, I'm heterosexual. I was born this way. I didn't make the choice. I was born this way. I have to assume that other people were born that way, their way, whatever that looks like. I don't care if somebody is gay in the world. All right, cool, right on, way to go. Doesn't hurt me in the least. So why the fuck are we binged about it? Why are we getting all pissy pants about it? And it just feels like this is one of those areas where people they get real emotionally invested and they don't really understand why. So they come up with an answer, right? Why does God hate America according to the Westboro Church? Well, it's because we don't do the things that God wants us to do, aka, murdering gay people or whatever the fuck the Westboro Baptists are yammering about today. Why do bad things happen? There is no answer. Bad things have always happened, even before we angered God. It's just a thing. Maybe bad things happen because the world is an imperfect place, and there's going to be good things and there's going to be bad things. And maybe somebody's bad thing is another person's good thing. Sometimes. Obviously not every time. But, like, life's complicated. It's a real bitch. And so you just roll with it. I had a really lousy week in a lot of ways. I had some personal life stuff that kind of exploded on me in ugly ways that I am not excited about or proud of my own reaction to. And that sucks, and I'll get through that. I could look at that and try to find a blame for it. What's the point? I get headaches. I had a headache all day like yesterday. Could look for, maybe I did something to anger God. Maybe I did something that, the society is punishing me for or something. Nope. I just get headaches. It's sinuses. It's allergies. It happens. We're okay. I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this. I hit ramble mode, clearly. All right. You know what I think I want to do? I haven't done this in a very long time. Let's read and react to letters to the editor in my local Calgary newspaper. Because that seems like a way to do things. My usual chatty chat folks are not here, and as a result, I'm just sort of babbling. I talked about some of the stuff that I plan on talking about, so we're just going to do that. Braid furious face off over. That doesn't sound interesting. You know what? Instead of that, maybe we're going to take a little look into the life of Peter Pinin. I don't care how to say his last name. Is it Paul Olivier? There we go. No, that's Pierre Olivier. Who? Well, apparently adding a 4 is dumb. Pierre Polivier. Or Polievre, whatever. This is now the head of the Canadian opposition to the government. So our government, many people are aware that our our president, our prime minister is Justin Trudeau. And Justin Trudeau is from the Liberal Party. He is a complete yutz and not worth leadership. But that's just my opinion. The official opposition is the Conservative Party of Canada, or CPC, who just had a leadership review, and this is the face of the new leader. Pierre Marcel Poilievre. I don't speak the French, and I also don't like him. How's Canada reacting to the Queen dying? Any weird stuff happening? Canada's weird in that regard. So we have a new stat holiday that's not a stat holiday. I work for a crown corporation that is not observing the stat holiday, even though the government is the one that put it through. I'm gonna switch back. We'll talk Pierre Poilievre in a second. Most Canadians, I think it's fair to say, don't give a fuck about the Queen. Never have. She's a lady on our money. She doesn't impose herself, or didn't impose herself, on our politics particularly much. And as a result, kind of like a non-issue in a lot of ways. Indigenous Canadians are using this as an opportunity, quite rightly, to be like, hey, also colonialism kind of sucks. Maybe it's time to not have a queen. And I actually did, last week I did a big ramble about that, which sort of the Coles notes are, whether the Queen was good or not, she was a symbol of colonialism, and her life was, built on the backs of all of the colonialism that the British Empire had done. And, Confederacy was neat and all, but maybe we can just stop having a king and a queen. Maybe that's a thing we could do. A lot of Canadians, obviously, there's a huge contingent that are absolutely saddened by the loss of the Queen, which I personally don't understand. But, everyone's allowed to have their things they like. To me, I never really got the concept of why we would, I don't have celebrity worship. I don't, none of that. People are just people, and we do people stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for some reason, we have, whether it's cultural or some weird programming thing in our DNA, that we want to build people up and make them into superheroes. And the Queen is the superhero of colonialism. So I don't get it, but I'm probably not gonna. All in all, I haven't seen a lot of people angrily in the streets or upset about the monarchy or anything. I think Canadians, aside from the yellow vest movement type Canadians, most of us are just pretty chill. And when the Queen died, a lot of us were like, "Oh, okay." I made a joke at the time. I was like, "Oh no, Prince Charles is going to become King Chuck III. Now we're going to have to get bigger bills to fit his ears on." That's the kind of shit that I took out of it. But don't get me wrong. I think Confederation was a cool thing. We were a British colony, and when Queen Victoria gave us Confederacy and gave us our own self-determination, I think that was a badass decision. I just think it should have also been hand in hand with okay, time for the Queen can become a private citizen, and the King can become private citizens. They can just they've won capitalism with colonialism as their superpower. Just go back to being normal now. Ooh, you were talking about Canadian yellow vests. I don't know there was a yellow vest movement in Canada. So this is a thing where our yellow vest movement was very, very fashy. And it's the same people who went on to become the Freedom Convoy, who are the organizers of that. The guys that are working on Diagolon, which would be carving this diagonal section from Canada. I think it's from Alaska to Florida, and being a new country where we would be nice and fashy. And they're big in the anti-vax movement. They're all, anytime you get people upset with the status quo, there's this core of people who show up and co-opt movements and stuff. So I don't really know a whole lot about the Yellow Vest movement that happened in France. I know it was an anti-government kind of thing. I think it was a little bit right-leaning and a little bit left-leaning, sort of a centrist thing. In Canada, it was not very long lived, and it was primarily right leaning people, but they've kind of just kept moving forward and created like the next step was, I think, United We Roll, which was a trucker convoy that didn't get as much attention, headed to Ontario and didn't have as much GoFundMe power. And so they failed miserably. And then came the Freedom Convoy, which I thought was going to be very similar. But all of a sudden they got millions of dollars in GoFundMe bucks. And all those people, funneling money into their pockets were, they were able to turn this into a movement. When I say they're fascists, I'm not talking about all of the people in the convoy. I do think that a lot of them are pretty sussy on the subject. But the core leadership of that movement was in no way a workers' movement. It was a workers' movement in the same way that I am a lady streamer. Not a thing. Not a thing. They instead were, out there. They're talking about the rights of the workers, but they're creating petitions that they were trying to get signed that would abolish the Canadian government in all practical terms, get rid of our parliament, and instead focus on the Governor General, who was the Queen's representative, and the Senate, which is an appointed Senate. We do not have an elected Senate; we have an appointed Senate. And that the third group, which was previously the Parliament, would be a citizens group made up of members of the Freedom Convoy. Again, unelected, no democracy. Why would we want to do democracy when we could fasci it up? So, yeah, it was a whole thing. It's very sad to me how often workers' movements are being co-opted by far right voices that have no desire to protect the workers. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. This is life in Canada. We're especially in the last few years, like we've become very much polarized. Alberta, where I live in particular, is extremely polarized. It always has been, but it's become more vitriolic about it, and that really sucks because it leads to real bad decisions publicly. We're constantly our leadership is constantly currying favor with far right voices. Because we're all about the big tent parties. The Yellow Vest movement in France was super weird. It was started as a basic anti-tax thing, then was mostly a rural right-wing thing the first 2 or 3 weeks, then moved on to a much more eclectic urban thing. I get super suspicious about movements that don't have strong political stances because they can move on to do unpleasant stuff. Yeah, 100%. And that's what the convoy is a really fantastic example of. They had very strong, publicly aware goals, but they were intentionally overshadowing those with this sort of workers' talk, and intentionally deciding to okay, here's what we'll do. We're going to talk about workers' rights, but we're going to petition the government for this, change of leadership of the country. Sorry. One of the problems that a lot of sort of grassroots movements, like I think the Yellow Vest movement was a fairly grassroots movement in its origins in France. And the problem is that when you have a grassroots movement, people can co-opt it, and so you wind up in situations like white supremacists have been doing this forever. If they had a march where they were like, "Hey, we're going to hate on people who are different than us," most people would be like, "You should stay the fuck home and we will come and fight you." So instead they go, "We're going to have a march for freedom of speech. We're going to have a march to support freedom of speech. We're going to talk a lot about Twitch politics not having freedom of speech because I can't use the words that I feel, even if I would never, oh my God, no. But, free speech, it's really important." And they know that saying these things brings bodies to the movement. So they see any movement and they leech into it and they start spreading wherever they can, sowing these seeds of discontent. right? They did it with the anti-vax movement. My ex-wife is an anti-vaxxer, and I watched that movement at the time, and I was like, holy shit, these people are like straight up being infiltrated. I'm surprised that it took as long as it did. And the holistic medicine thing would be another example of that. But really, like the homeschool movement, anything that is, hey, there's the status quo. Let's question it. Let's move a little bit away from it. There are people who will be just fast in there and will rise to some degree of prominence in that movement, and then shift it sort of subtly towards the goals that they wanted. So like your average Freedom Convoy person was not a Nazi or a white supremacist or anything like that. Your average Freedom Convoy person was probably someone who actually cared a lot about the straw man that they were being presented, that was the worker in Canada being abjectly attacked by the government. It was particularly effective because of what we've been through with the whole COVID thing, and people having this great sense of anger and frustration that pertains to having been forced to stay home for a certain amount of time and all that kind of stuff. Wasn't the Freedom Convoy heavily funded by U.S. conservatives? Yes, it was. I would say it was heavily funded by Christian movements and conservative movements and far-right movements all around the world. But the U.S., absolutely, we had a lot of money from U.S. Conservatives. And it's kind of to me, it's kind of a telling thing that where United We Roll had a lot more kind of overt racist stuff associated with it. It was like they got better at branding, and as a result, they were able to get a lot more of those big fat paychecks from U.S. conservatives. All the talk about George Soros funds the left, and you're all in CIA plants, and you're all getting paid by whatever. But if you look at the right, David Koch and the Koch Foundation is whichever one's still alive. Like they're funding a lot of these things. That destabilization of the political narrative meets their requirements, right? At the end of the day, especially people like the Koch brothers, although it's certainly not limited to them, but they are anarcho-capitalists or what have you, and they just want to be unimpeded by government. So when you have a group like the Freedom Convoy and they're basically behind the scenes talking fascist talk, well, that's good for business, until it's not. But it's good for business, and the idea is, why don't we support these guys, and they'll be on our side when they get into power, and they can cut all the taxes, because who likes paying taxes and all that kind of stuff. I honestly don't understand. The drummer in one of my bands is a big proponent of there's not proponent, but there's like a Netflix show or something about a religious group that's like a far right religious group that has their fingers in all of these pies and stuff. I don't know enough about it, but I would say that it wouldn't surprise me if we were there, if a lot of these right-wing movements are basically funded by a group of people who want to essentially create that fracture, focus on populist movements, whether fascist or otherwise, and do so as a means to control progressive voices, which cost them money in the long run, and also undermine organized labor and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't understand it. I'm certainly, not an expert on the wild, wild world. I'm only talking about my own experiences in it and what I've seen. This reminds me of Mindfuck by Christopher Wiley. Showed her right-wing dark money work. Showed how right-wing dark money worked with Brexit in the 2016 election on a small scale. If that's the show, it may very well be. I honestly have no idea. But yeah, it's sort of the same idea as like American evangelicals who fund, send a lot of money to Israel, and it's because they believe that this is going to be a major component of their end times philosophy, and that they just have to keep Israel being Israel long enough for the bull thing, black bull stud, whatever. I don't even fucking understand it, but that way we're ushering in the apocalypse, and God will rain fire down upon all the atheists out there and heretics and monsters, and all the Christians will live on forever. So it's sort of a similar thing. It's this group that has a giant amount of money, just saying, you know what, now's the time for us to foment all these things that will lead to our end goal. It's the book by the Cambridge Analytica whistleblower. Oh, yes. Okay. I am not I'm not familiar with it, unfortunately. Definitely sounds like something I should read, though. I recently had a birthday, and someone gave me a copy of Ayn Rand. I'm going to read it, but I'm fairly certain that me and Ayn don't see a lot of eye to eye. So maybe it'll be like once I finish Ayn Rand, I can read that. Yeah, whoa. It is interesting, and I kind of want to have the conversation with them afterwards. It's a lady friend. I want to have the conversation with them afterwards and be like, so what did you take out of this book, and what do you think? Because I am a libertarian, but I'm a libertarian socialist, and I believe that I believe in individual freedom and tempered with responsibility, but also that at a societal level we have to care about one another, and we have to ensure that we're not winning at the expense of others losing. And from what I understand about A Little Miss Atlas Shrugged, Ayn wasn't big on that. Ayn was big on, you know what? Get what you get. Take what you take. Let everyone else have the same opportunities, but you go. You do you. And that is something that philosophically I would not be okay with. When I talk with libertarians and they talk about like the public healthcare system, and they'll be like, oh my God, bro. Everyone should have the option to have, if you want to have a whole, awesome healthcare package, you should be allowed to have that. But why should I be forced to pay for everybody's, healthcare package when, I have, we live in a big society and not everyone's going to win and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. I get what you're saying. You're saying I don't want to have to waste my money if I'm of good health. I shouldn't have to be paying for people in poor health. I get that. You're a monster and a piece of shit. But I get that. Because at the end of the day, the reason we do that is because we live in a world that is bigger than ourselves, and that success is ultimately controlled by all sorts of factors outside of ourselves. So we may be big and wealthy and powerful, but that can go away too. Even a Bezos can fall if the world is of the right kinds and conditions. And hopefully one day, looking at you, Jeff Bezos. But I feel like there is a responsibility as a social species to build our morality based around the fact that we are a social species, and that we have to make sure that the, quote unquote, the herd is strong. And I just choose to see that herd as all of humanity, and by extension, all life on Earth. So we should be doing things that are positive for that end goal. And I just feel like that's not such a hot take, but apparently it is. Ayn would disagree with me, or at least that's the understanding I have, having not read Atlas Shrugged. So I am looking forward to reading it. I am looking forward to reading it with a somewhat open mind, and hopefully coming back with a conversation, because the lady friend in question is a good person, definitely a capitalist, but a good person who does not have evil aspirations, cares about others and stuff. And I think when I got that book, I was a little bit surprised. I was like, oh, did not see this coming. But I think that because I do believe you can be a libertarian on the right and still be a good person if you actually do the things that libertarianism requires. So, for example, you may not believe in the value of a public healthcare system, but then you have you donate amounts of dollars out of your pocket to support access to a private healthcare system. Now, I'm not okay with that. I'm all for a public system, and I'm not for a private system. But I get it. And if you're doing these things, then at least you're sort of living the deal. But then you look at like the Koch brothers, and what are they funding? Things that say, yeah, oil's good. Keep doing oil. Ayn Rand lived her final years on welfare, but it's consistent with her ideology's hypocrisy, I suppose. Yeah, that I did not know that about Ayn Rand, but yeah, that 100% tracks. Ayn Rand is someone who, from what little I know, because literally I never gave a shit about Ayn Rand. I used to call her Ayn Rand until such time as I heard a video and they were like, Ayn Rand, and I went, ha ha ha, you're saying her name, and then I found out I was the one saying her name wrong. But yeah, people, one of the most common arguments I hear is, why am I paying into employment and insurance and things like that when I'm never going to need those things because I have a good job and it's a stable job and all that kind of shit. And that just makes me laugh because I've been a consultant my whole adult life, and I have never had the potential of not being employed. I was a single father, and before being a single father, I was still a single father, but I was not looking after my children in the beginning. My ex-wife was, and so I was the sole source of income for them and for my own existence. So, that means there's no vacations, there's no saving for a rainy day. Like, literally just living hand to mouth for my adult life, which I'm good with. Like, that's fine. But the idea that, like, if I lost a job, I better have another fucking job. And like, even the EI payments that, a system that I had been paying into would not have given me enough money to cover my obligations to my children, to my ex-wife, and to myself. But why would I pay into that then if I'm never going to get the benefit? If I couldn't even allow myself to get the benefit of it? How about because other people will need it? Because I live in a bigger world than just myself. And it's cool to me that, we have a society that has safety nets available for people. I was talking about the UBI earlier and how, CERB, the Canadian program during COVID, like, was the ultimate underscore of why this is super important. Paying taxes to support government programs like CERB, which ensured that when COVID hit, all Canadians who were adversely affected by the pandemic in terms of job loss or job stoppage or slowdowns or whatever, were guaranteed like $2,000 a month minimum. And a lot of people would go, well, that is the worst idea in the history of ever. And it's like, no, dude, what ended up happening there was that money was continuing to be mobile in our society, continuing to have momentum and to be transferred and taxed and all of these kinds of things. And that's the shit that kept us afloat through the pandemic, right? People weren't losing their houses. People weren't living on the street and stuff. Instead, people were ordering avocado toast and taking up, making sourdough bread and shit. And that was so fucking good. I don't know how that came from Ayn Rand being on welfare. But yeah, like, I believe there are people who would have been like more than happy to, be that libertarian and then take from the government when they can. If you think about the whitehouse.gov Twitter account posting all the details about like Marjorie Taylor Greene's PPP loan that she didn't have to repay. A good example, people who very hypocritical. I want to not have to pay my taxes, but I want all the benefits that tax paying brings about, right? Infrastructure. You don't get infrastructure at least on a large scale, without it coming from a group like the government. Whether that government is individual people or a collective, that is, made up of, more socially, as a public ownership kind of thing. But John Q. Billionaire is not going to go, oh, the streets in the poor part of town are shitty. Well, you know what? Here's a check. Why don't you go fix those streets? That ain't a thing. That ain't a thing that happens. And as a result, you have to have this larger body. So if Ayn Rand had a street and it was a good street, it was because there was a government making that street good. And if Ayn Rand was on welfare, it's because all of us regular folk were paying our taxes to make sure that Ayn Rand could be looked after. And, I support that. I would call Ayn Rand an edge case there, right? Sort of the last person you would want to have to help out. Because I'm sure that I made some decent money from the book sales. I know it was probably pre-CPAC era, so she probably wasn't getting like mad stacks of dollars to be a public speaker, as is the current way things go. But, she probably did well for herself, and at the end of her life, presumably needed help. Again, I don't know the particulars about how she wound up on welfare, but presumably needed help. Even that person should be helped by a society that is caring. So I'm okay with it. In the same regard that, like, I'm okay with someone going for a 39.9 week abortion, because that is an edge case that is ridiculous and probably not a thing. But at the end of the day, that person is going to fit the criteria on which, I happen to draw that arbitrary line, and fine, it's an edge case. And if those are the things that happen in order to protect the right for all people, then I'm for it. Yeah, that's me, the socialist, muttering my socialisms. So I'm probably gonna take another quick break. I will play more of my horrible music because I can. My finger just did a weird thing. That was odd. Must be because I'm getting old. We're going to, so the song that I'm going to play on a loop while I'm out having a quick smoke break is my intentional Muzak rendition of the Canadian track of great repute, Run to You by a young Mr. Bryan Adams. So this will be entirely awful and fun. And I will be back in a few minutes, and hope people stick around because this has been fun. Typically, the last hour is when I do karaoke, but if you want to continue to have conversations, I am more than happy to do so, and more than happy to weigh in on whatever topics. That's entirely up to you. Also, you can pick karaoke songs for me if you want. Either way, we're good. All right, let me start music and mute my mic, and I will be right back. back. Let me get the thing off my face. And I see I missed a message there, so let's start with that. This reminds me of how the Atlas Shrugged movie adaptation got stuck in development hell for decades because of personal greed, among other things. It's a fun rabbit hole. I'm going to have to check that out, because that does sound like it would be entirely adorable. Anything that is a good chuckle for me is a worthwhile rabbit hole. Not just a good chuckle, but just sort of generally fun, weird things like that. Like, I actually really enjoy the idea that the ultimate, pro-capitalism movie would have gotten bogged down in greed. That just seems right. It would be like if someone was making a movie adaptation of Adam Smith's book. Why can't I think of what the title of that is? Wealth of Nations. Wealth of Nations. Likewise, it would be like if someone was making a version of Das Kapital, but they couldn't, get together and agree on collectively on what they were going to make. Both of those would be hilarious. The fact that it happened to Ayn Rand, I salute that entirely. So, typically, this is when I will do my karaoke. I'm more than happy to continue chatting if that's the desire of the crowd, but I also do enjoy the karaoke. It ended up taking a massive loss at the box office when it eventually got released, so more irony, I guess. Absolutely beautiful irony. I'm all for hearing that Ayn Rand had a hard time with things in general. This warms my heart. Yeah, that's fucking rad. I love that. Kind of reminds me in a different sort of way of the Left Alone movies, which I think were terrible. I tried so hard. I downloaded all 3 illegally so that in a video game, so that I could watch them and giggle at Kirk Cameron in general and the story in particular. They were so bad I couldn't get through them, but and that was 3. I think they're up to 750 now. Those are basically just movies, chick tracts. Kosa is now following. Thank you, Kosa. It's good to have you here. I will again reiterate the point that I am technically an affiliate and you can subscribe to me, but please don't. I don't need your money, and if you want to do something with your money, do cool things with your money, like support local groups. Here in Calgary, where I live, I would support the Bear Clan Patrol, who do great outreach work with homeless people and Indigenous people. So yeah, support good things. I'm not a good. Well, I'm super good, but not I'm not changing the world here. But please enjoy, welcome, and feel free to chat away. Yeah, the Left Alone movies were ridiculously unsuccessful. Pretty much anything Kevin Sorbo has done in the last, I don't know, how long has it been since Hercules? The only things he does that are successful are make an ass of himself on Twitter. Those things I do get a certain amount of warm, jolly joy out of. Not gonna lie, I'm not better than that. Some might argue I'm worse than that. I don't know enough about the life of Ayn Rand. Also, I can't say I've ever really cared. There was a really good movie about Madeline, what was her name? Madeline something, the woman who ran the American Atheist movement or whatever, and Madeline Murray O'Hare, that's the one. That showed what a genuinely not awesome person she was. And I quite like that. I enjoy a certain amount of Schadenfreude in my movie viewing experience. But yeah, at the end of the day, live by the capitalist sword, die by the capitalist sword. Similarly, I hope that all tankies wind up in a situation where they live on a commune under Father Hawes, and he exploits and destroys them in the ways that communist China or communist USSR exploited and destroyed their people. You know, you get what you pay for. You spends your money and you takes your chances. Yeah, not a big fan. Not a big fan. What can I say? For me, I think we should be organizing our society around the basic idea that we should probably try to have good lives and be good to each other. You know, I had this whole spiel that I did previously about how, like, when I was a kid, I was raised to believe that I was meant for great things. And that was largely tied to the fact that I was raised as a Christian and that I was, you know, a middle-class white kid, although we felt poor, but we were middle class, in a country where that was sort of the standard for you know, doing good stuff. And I felt like I was going to do great things. And I've come to realize that doing great things is kind of unreasonable. Doing good things, everyone can do good things. And you can do all kinds of good in the world and make the world a better place. In my own very narcissistic way, I kind of view what I'm doing right now as trying to make the world a better place, or at least a better place, you know, having conversation and getting, you know, putting ideas out there that I think are not necessarily radical, but are good. And, you know, things like maybe we should probably have universal health care and a universal basic income. I was really, really enjoying, I was talking about UBI earlier, like a bunch earlier. I did like a top 10 things we should have learned from COVID but didn't. And UBI is one of them because as a Canadian, our experience with the CERB program, which I mentioned a few minutes ago again, you know, people always ask, well, who's going to pay for it? I'll tell you who's going to pay for it. Everyone will pay for it by no longer paying for half as big prisons. No one will have to have this massive prison industrial complex full of people who are there because poverty dictated it. So we can scale back on our police force while still having a police force. We can scale back on our carceral system while still having a carceral system. We can avoid all of the public dollars that go into these things and use those dollars to benefit the people. Is good. Is very good. All right, I think I'm going to do some karaoke, unless more conversation pops up. I'm certainly always, and I'm more than happy to, like, midway through a song, chat message comes up at the end of the song, we'll talk. If you do want to tell me what songs to sing, you can do that. I only came up with one ahead of time that I was like, oh, I should sing that. And that's the wrong tab before I get all screwed. We're going to do a little Chumbawamba here. I'm going to fade over so you can follow along at home. All right, Mary, Mary. I don't know if I really remember this song, and I don't know how good the karaoke version is. We'll find out together.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
I hope I do this justice at least for the first song.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is
Now virgin me, for I have sinned. I sold my soul for sex and gin. Go call a priest, all meek and mild, and tell him Mary's no more a child.
I don't know if this is a good song for me. It's probably not.
It's raining stones, it's raining bile from the luxury of your denial. So I don't deny, I won't make do. I'll press along, place bets on the truth. So up and down, and I love what's not allowed. I was lost, now I see, and now I'm growing old disgracefully. Whatever happened to Mary? Whatever happened to Mary? Whatever happened to Mary? Whatever happened to Mary? Whatever happened to...
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. It's a great fucking song, even if I suck at it.
I'll split our boards and do more drugs. Burn every bill, get drunk on love. Wear next to nothing in the pouring rain. Be a bad example and do it all again.
Yeah, this sucks. I'm not gonna do this song anymore. Yeah, it was a really good idea. I love Chumbawamba, but unfortunately, it did not go well. We're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna do a little Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. What song to do? Let's do Country Roads. I don't know if I've ever actually listened to Me First and the Gimme Gimmes cover of this, but it's got to be pretty basic. It's Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. Photographed by Nickelback? I will do it.
Almost, oh shit. West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees. Younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place where I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country.
I don't fucking know the tune to Country Roads. Okay, we're stopping. We're gonna do a song that I know by them. That was terrible. Okay, we're gonna actually do a good song. I'm surprised I didn't know that. Rocket Man? We'll do Rocket Man. Hopefully I can sing this and don't suck. And then I will do Photograph by Nickelback. Just for you, James Bond. Okay. Then I'll try to do something that's not punk rock. Probably. Rocket Man in the style of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. Okay. Focus. You got this, fella. You got this. Oh shit, do I have this?
0 hour, 9 a.m. And I'm gonna be high as a kite by then.
I have no idea how this fucking song goes. Yeah, I'm fucking failing miserably. I totally love me some Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, and I am screwing up. So we're gonna do what James Bond asked. We're gonna go with Photograph by Nickelback. I don't know this song either. Oh, it's a good day. How about I do sing a Nickelback song I know? Let me hear Photograph and see if it's a song I know, because I don't know. Maybe I do know it. We'll just skip ahead. Yeah, I don't think I know this one, which is weird as a Canadian. So let's do How You Remind Me. This should satisfy the desire for a little Nickelback in your life.
Living as a wise man, couldn't cut it as a poor man stealing. Tired of living like a blind man. I'm sick of sight without a sense of feeling, and this is how you remind me. This is how you remind me of what I really am. This is how you remind me of what I really am. It's not like you say sorry. I was waiting on a different story. This time I'm mistaken for handing you a heart worth breaking. And I've been wrong, I've been down to the bottom of every bottle. These 5 words in my head scream my way, having fun, yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, no, yeah, 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 no, no. It's not like you didn't know that. I said I love you and I swear I still do.
It must have been so bad, 'cause living with me must have damn near killed you. And this is how you remind me what I really am. This is how you remind me of what I really am. It's not like you say sorry, I was waiting on a different story. This time I'm mistaken for handing you a heart worth breaking. And I've been wrong, I've been down, been to the bottom of every bottle. Those 5 words in my head scream, are we having fun? Yeah, 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 no, no, yeah, 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 no, no, yeah, 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 no, no, yeah, 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 no, no. Ooh, there's a transition. Shit, when do I come in? No, oh, not there. This will be it. Never made it as a wise man, couldn't cut it as a poor man stealing. This is how you remind me. This is how you remind me. This is how you remind me of what I really am. This is how you remind me of what I really am. It's not like you say sorry, I was waiting on a different story. This time I'm mistaken for handing you a heart worth breaking. And I've been wrong, I've been down to the bottom of every bottle. These 5 words in my head scream, are we having fun? Yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 No, no. I don't know where the no-no's coming in. There, that was the no-no. Alright, ooh, it says Linkin Park. I don't know that. Oh, Kryptonite by 3 Doors Down. This will be tacky as all shit.
Sinking.
I used to really like this song. I went through a phase. I feel like this is gonna be super cheesy. Let's. Oh, didn't start where I thought it started. That's how good I am at this. Well, I took a walk around the world to ease my troubled mind. I left my body lying somewhere in the sands of time. But I watched the world float to the dark side of the moon. I feel there's nothing I can do. Yeah, yeah. I watched the world float to the dark side of the moon. After all I knew, it had to be something to do with you. I really don't mind what happens now and then, as long as you'll be my friend at the end. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there and holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side, my superhuman, my kryptonite. I don't know where it all comes in. You call me strong, you call me weak, still your secrets I will keep. Took for granted all the times I never let you down. You stumbled in and bumped your head. If not for me, then you'd be dead. I picked you up and put you back on solid ground. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there and holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side with my superhuman, my kryptonite. This is such a bad song. I don't know why I loved this song when I did, but I did love this song once.
If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side, my superhuman, my kryptonite. Yeah. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side with my superhuman, my kryptonite.
Yeah, guilty pleasures, totally. Outro. Ooh. What else do I want to do? Oh yeah, that'll work. On the right hand side, you guys can't see it, but we have Lightning Crashes by Live. Since I clearly shit the bed with all of the me first and the gimmies. Gimmies, sorry. We'll do a little cheese. We're gonna have some cheesy time. Had to burp, sorry. It's a thing. Just a human being trying to live here. I hope this song's in my range. Lightning crashes, a new mother cries. Her placenta falls to the floor. The angel opens her eyes. The confusion sets in before the doctor can even close the door. Lightning crashes, an old mother dies. Her intentions fall to the floor. The angel closes her eyes. The confusion that was hers belongs now to the baby down the hall. Oh, now feel it coming back again, like a rolling thunder chasing the wind, forces pulling from the center of the earth again. I can feel it. So it's not really in my range. Lightning crashes, a new mother cries. This moment she's been waiting for. The angel opens her eyes. Pale blue colored iris presents a circle, puts the glory out to hide. Oh, now feel it coming back again, like a rolling thunder chasing the wind, forces pulling from the center of the earth again. I can feel it. I
can feel it. I can feel it coming back again, like a rolling thunder chasing the wind, forces pulling from the center of the earth again. I can feel it, I can feel it coming back again, like a rolling thunder chasing the wind, forces pulling from the center of the earth again. I can feel it, I can feel it coming back again, like a rolling thunder chasing the wind, forces pulling from the center of the earth again. I can feel it, I can feel it, I can feel it.
You know, I gotta say, as a punk rock kid, I feel like I have to do some comeuppance here. So what are we gonna do? What's a good punk rock song? Let's just look for the word punk. Karaoke and punk. Cult of Personality, that classic punk rock band Living Colour. Green Day, Blink-182, Faith No More, not a punk rock song. Teenage Dirtbag. You know what? Let's do Olympia. This will be fun. Maybe. Yeah, or it could suck. Either way. I like me some Rancid. Rancid's a band where the farther back in time you go, the better they get. And I do like the song Olympia. Although I prefer it, the NoFX cover of it. They did a split album where they covered each of the songs.
Hanging out with lies down on 6th Street. Knew that I was in trouble. Was feeling much like the devil. Something burning deep inside of me. Ran into 3 Puerto Ricans. These girls took us to the fun house where we played a lonely pinball machine. Hanging on the corner of 52nd and Broadway. Cars passing by, but none of them seemed to go my way. New York City, well, I wish I was on a highway. Back to Olympia. I'm having a hard time understanding. It gets all too demanding. She's all gone and I'm stranded. Something burning deep inside of me. All I know, it's 4 o'clock, yeah. She ain't even shut up, eh. I watched 1,000 people go home from work. Yeah, hanging on the corner of 52nd and Broadway. Cars going by, but none of them seem to go my way. New York City, well, I wish I was on a highway. Back to Olympia. many times will it take me before I go crazy, before I lose everything? Sunburned deep inside of me. Ran into 3 Puerto Ricans. These girls took us to the fun house. I don't wanna be alone again. Hanging on the corner of 52nd and Broadway. Cars passing by, but none of them seem to go my way. New York City, well, I wish I was on the highway. Back to Olympia.
Oh, I just had the worst idea. I don't know if this exists or not. I don't know if I can sing it or not. Book of Heavy Metal Dreamweaver karaoke. It's an instrumental cover. I need the karaoke version if I'm going to do it. Damn it. Damn it. Let's give this a shot. I feel like this is going to be this guy singing the song. Yeah, that's all. That's exactly. That sucks. If you're not familiar with the song, you have won. It is such a bad song. Let's do some Maiden, which will be awful. Because Maiden is not in my range. Maybe Fear of the Dark. We'll try Fear of the Dark. We'll see. We'll see. Bruce Dickinson is a phenomenal tenor, and I am not. This is probably a terrible idea. I think I can do this. I am a man who walks alone when I'm walking a dark road at night or strolling through the park. When the light begins to fade, I sometimes feel a little strange, a little anxious when it's dark. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there. Such a good fucking song. Have you run your fingers down the wall? And have you felt your neck skin crawl when you're searching for the light? Sometimes when you're scared to take a look at the corner of the room, you said that something's watching you. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark,
Fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there. Have you ever been alone at night? Thought you heard footsteps behind and turned around and no one's there. And as you quicken up your pace, you find it hard to look again, 'cause you're sure there's someone there. Fear of the dark. Fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark. Fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there.
Minute and 35 seconds solo. Jesus fuck. If anyone's still watching, feel free to shoot out some requests. Though I don't know that anyone's still watching. According to this, there's people watching. If you're watching, hopefully you're having fun. If you're not watching, hopefully you're having fun too. It's a very long solo. Imagine being Bruce Dickinson right now. Like, thank God the guy's spring-loaded, because he'd be running all over the place and doing all sorts of cool shit. You're here, James Bond. Thank you, brother. But if you were just like a regular front guy, you'd be like, just waiting for the solo to end. Like, guys, can I sing again? Like I'm doing now.
Fear of the dark. Oh, fear of the dark. 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 Fear of the dark.
Another 20-second break.
Watching horror films the night before, debating witches and folklore, unknown troubles on your mind. Maybe your mind is playing tricks, you sense and suddenly eyes fix on dancing shadows from behind. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there.
Oh, it's not over yet. Don't be fooled by Western media. If you had a lighter, now would be the time.
When I'm walking a dark road, I am a man who walks alone.
Oh, wasn't that fancy? Fancy AF. Alright, I feel like that means we should do some Alanis Morissette. I recently did Ironic, so let's do You Ought to Know. This is probably going to be awful. I'm good with that. want you to know that I'm happy for you. I wish nothing but the best for you both. An older version of me, is she perverted like me? Would she go down on you in a theater? Does she speak eloquently? And would she have your baby? I'm sure she'll make an excellent mother. Cause the love that you gave, that you made, wasn't able to make it enough for you to be open wide. No. And every time you speak her name, does she know how you told me, until you died? Fuck. And I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you gave to me. You ought to know. You seem very well. Things look peaceful. I'm not quite as well. I thought you should know. Did you forget about me, Mr. Duplicity? I hate to bug you in the middle of dinner. It was a slap in the face, how quickly I was replaced. And are you thinking of me when you fuck her? Cause the love that you gave, that we made, wasn't able to make it enough for you to be open wide. No. And every time you speak her name, does she know how you told me you'd hold me until you died? Till you died, well you're still alive. And I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you gave to me. You ought to know. Ooh, little breakdown instrumental. It's gonna get all smooth. Ooh. Ooh. Cause the joke that you laid in the bed that was was not gonna fade as soon as you close your eyes. And you know it. And every time I scratch my nails down someone else's back, I hope you feel it. Well, can you feel it? And I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you gave to me. You ought to know. Well, I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you gave to me. You ought to know. That went better and worse than it should have. I'm good with it either way. Let's see. Let's do some Bon Jovi. Since I'm the only one making requests. I did Wanted Dead or Alive the other week. It was good. Ooh, You Give Love a Bad Name. This will be brilliant. Brilliant. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame, darling. You give love a bad name. If you have a special someone, hold her close, or him close, or them close, and let's rock out with our hearts out.
what you sell. You promised me heaven, then put me through hell. Shades of love got a hold on me. When passion's a prison, you can't break free. Whoa, you're a loaded gun. Yeah. Oh, there's nowhere to run. No one can save you. The damage is done. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame, darling. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game. You give love a bad name. Hey, you give love bad name.
Bitch. This is such a sad boy song.
Paint your smile on your lips, blood red nails on your fingertips. A schoolboy's dream, you act so shy. Your very first kiss was your first kiss goodbye. Whoa, you're a loaded gun. Oh, there's nowhere to run. No one can save me. The damage is done. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game. You give love bad name. Fuck. Yeah, you give love. Wow.
That is a sick guitar solo, though. I kind of feel like I want to sing Hungry Like a Wolf by Duran Duran next.
Oh, shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game. You give love a bad name. And you're to blame. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game. You give love a bad name. You give love. You give love bad name.
It's just gonna do this till the end of the song. I'm gonna check and see if they have the Real Big Fish version. They do. Okay, we'll do the Real Big Fish version of this. Hydrate? Drink coffee, you mean? I feel like it's... Yeah, that's not karaoke. There's no words on the screen. Although I can fucking fake it. Let's fake it. I'm just going to pop open another tab real quick, which will... No, I don't want to do another tab. I want to go at a different window. 1 second. What am I doing? What the fuck am I doing here? This is important enough to me that... You know what? Fuck it. Let's do the Duran Duran version. Because it'll have the lyrics and... Also, the bass line in the original Duran Duran Hungry Like the Wolf is fucking awesome. And that way I'm not dicking around with multiple windows. Listen to the bass line, not necessarily here.
Dark in the city, night is wild. Steam in the subway. Earth is a fire. Woman, you want me, so give me a sign. And catch my even closer behind. In touch with the ground. I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. Smell like a sound, lost in a crowd. And I'm hungry like the wolf. straddle the line, discord and rhyme. I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. Mouth is alive, juice is like wine, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Stalked in the forest, too close to hide. I'll be upon you by the moonlight side. Do 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 do. High blood drumming on your skin, it's so tight. You feel my heat, I'm just a moment behind. Do 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 do. In touch with the ground, I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. Santana sound, I'm lost and I'm found, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Strut on a line, it's discord and rhyme. I howl and I whine, I'm after you. Mouth is alive, all running inside, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Ooh, I'm hungry, baby. Hungry like the wolf. So fucking hungry. In the ground, I break from the crowd. I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. Smell like a sound, I'm lost and I'm found, and I'm hungry like the wolf. It's right on a line, it's discord and rhyme. I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. Mouth is alive, juice is like wine, and I'm hungry like the wolf. The ground, I break from the crowd. I'm on a hunt, I'm after you. Santana sound, I'm lost and I'm found, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Down the line, it's discord and rhyme. I howl and I whine, I'm after you. His mouth is alive, all running inside, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Alright. I'm going to give you the final pick, but I will give you options. Either Fast Car by Tracy Chapman or Total Eclipse the Heart by Bonnie Raitt. Give you a second. I understand there's a delay, there's a drag between when I speak and when you can type back, and then when you type back and when I read it. So, Bonnie Raitt, Tracy Chapman. Both fantastic songs. Both clearly silly choices for me. What do you say? It's just you, James Bond. You get to pick. Fast Car? Alright, Fast Car it is. Tracy Chapman, Fast Car. I hope my voice doesn't get all choky uppy when I sing this, because it's such a fucking potent song. If it does, well, sucks to be me. I feel like this will be low enough for me to sing. Tracy Chapman is a fucking superhero. Period. End sentence. You got a fast car. I want a ticket to anywhere. Maybe we make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me, myself, I got nothing to prove. It's a little low, but that's okay. It's okay. You got a fast car. I got a plan to get us out of here. I've been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money. Won't have to drive too far. Cross the border and into the city. You and I can both get jobs. Find to see what it means to be living.
See, my old man's got a problem. He lived with the bottle, that's the way it is. His body's too old for working. His body's too young to look like his. Mama went off and left him. She wanted more from life than he could give. I said somebody's gotta take care of him. So I quit school, that's what I did. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way. Here it comes, I think. So remember we were driving in your car, speeding so fast I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. I really love this song, period. So if I suck at it, that's terrible. You got a fast car. We go cruising, entertain ourselves. You still ain't got a job. I work in the market as a checkout girl. I know things will get better. You'll find work and I'll get promoted. We'll move out of the shelter, buy a bigger house and live in the suburbs. Remember when we were driving in your car, speeding so fast I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. Oh, I am not a rock star. Hey now, I'm a rock star. You got a fast car. I got a job that pays all our bills. You stay out drinking at a bar. See more of your friends than you do your kids. Always hope for better. Thought maybe together you and me would find it. And plans ain't going nowhere. So take your fast car and keep on driving. Fucked up the timing on that one. There's weird cadence. I remember we were driving in your car, speeding so fast I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. It feels faster because we think of this, the original is very slow. It's actually, this is the right speed, but because it's a beautiful song, we kind of slow it in our heads. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so you can fly away? You gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way. Okay, fuck it, I'm doing Bonnie Raitt also. We're doing Total Eclipse of the Heart, period. Unless they have the literal version. No, they don't. But I'll just do the karaoke version. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Sing King. Then I'm calling it a stream and I'm going to smoke cigarettes and drink beer. Now I'm a little bit lonely and you're never coming around. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit tired. Listen to the sound of my tears. Every now and then I get a little bit nervous that the best of all the years have gone by. Every now and then I get a little bit terrified and then I see the look in your eyes. Every now and then I fall apart. Every now and then I fall apart. Every now and then I get a little bit restless and I dream of something wild. Every now and then I get a little bit helpless and I'm lying like a child in your arms. Every now and then I get a little bit angry and I know I gotta get out and cry. Every now and then I get a little bit terrified, but then I see the look in your eyes. Every now and then I fall apart. Every now and then I fall apart. And I need you now tonight. And I need you more than ever. And if you only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever. And we'll only be making it right, 'cause we'll never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. Your love is like a shadow on me all of the time. I don't know what to do and I'm always in the dark. We're living on a powder keg and giving off sparks. I really need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start. Once upon a time I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart. There's nothing I can do, a total eclipse of the heart. Once upon a time there was light in my life, but now there's only love in the dark. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes a person feels like there's a hole in the heart. It's an eclipse. The light of the lab is blocked by the shadow of the really real fucking world. And all I can say is nothing. Shit. Shit. It'd be really good if they did the turnarounds. Every now and then I fall apart. Every now and then I fall apart. And I need you now tonight. And I need you more than ever. And if you'd only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever. And we'll only be making it right, 'cause we'll never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. Your love is like a shadow on me all of the time. I don't know what to do and I'm always in the dark. Living in a powder keg and giving off sparks. I'm gonna need you tonight. Tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start. Once upon a time I was falling in love. Now I'm only falling apart. Nothing I can do, a total eclipse of the heart. Once upon a time there was light in my life, but now there's only love in the dark. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart. Total eclipse of the heart. Turn around, bright eyes. Turn around, bright eyes. Turn around. Turn the fuck around. Bright eyes. Can you imagine romantically talking to a person and referring to them as bright eyes? Might as well call someone bushy tail. What a thing to, hey, bright eyes. Come here, bright eyes. Or you're in the moments, you're lying on top of them going, oh, bright eyes. It's just, no. Alright, on that morbid, awful note. Does that say that you're cheersing me? I can't tell. My old eyes. Oh, Coffee and Smoke. Yes, Coffee and a Smoke. Beer and a Smoke, actually, is happening now. So thank you very much for watching. James Bond, always a pleasure, my friend. I will see you on Monday on DJ's stream. And if anyone's watching, check out Temple Music Academy. Mondays, I'm always in there for DJ's stream. DJ is the guitarist from a band called Without Mercy from BC, which is the province right next door to mine. And an old friend and a good friend, and although he does have a certain penchant for, he does music reviews of videos, and he lately has been doing a bunch of that fucking idiot Tom McDonald dude. Not a big fan. But can't all be perfect. He still plays a fucking mean guitar. So check him out. And yeah, that'll be it for me. Cheers, brother. As I like to say, in the words of the great Ed Whalen, pioneer of this great city I live in. In the meantime, and in between time, that's it. Another edition of Stampy Wrestling. That's not the button I meant to hit. It's gonna be a ring-a-ding-dong dandy, he said, covering up his giant screw-up. There's the